The movie opens in 2015 as actress Elizabeth Berry arrives in Savannah, Georgia, to research her upcoming role in an independent film. Elizabeth will be playing Gracie, a woman whose past became the center of a widely publicized scandal. Years earlier, back in 1992, Gracie, then 36, was involved with 13-year-old Joe, a boy who worked with her at a pet store and sat in the same classroom as her son, Georgie. The scandal detonated in public, and Gracie went to prison. While incarcerated, she gave birth to Joe's child. More than 20 years later, Joe and Gracie are still together. They are now married and living in a suburban neighborhood with their children. Their eldest daughter, Honor, is already in college, while the twins Charlie and Mary are about to graduate from high school. On the surface, everything appears almost normal. But that sense of normalcy feels like something carefully maintained over time. Elizabeth checks into a local hotel and immediately begins observing the town and the people around her. She takes in the atmosphere, trying to understand the world Gracie has built for herself. For Elizabeth, this is more than preparation. She wants to step fully into Gracie's life, to understand not just what happened, but how someone continues living with a past like this. Meanwhile, Gracie and her family are preparing for a backyard barbecue. While getting everything ready, Gracie talks about the actress, wondering what she'll be like and how she'll react to the family. Soon, Elizabeth arrives, and the two meet for the first time. Elizabeth thanks Gracie for letting her stay and observe her life, explaining that she wants to understand her as fully as possible. She then hands Gracie a package that had been left at her door. Gracie opens it herself, and it turns out to be a box full of shit that people still send them from time to time. Elizabeth is caught off guard, but Gracie tells her not to be surprised. After that, Gracie tells Elizabeth to make herself at home, talk to people, look around, and take whatever she needs before leaving her to continue hosting. Throughout the day, Elizabeth observes everything, taking notes as she watches how the family and guests interact. At one point, Mary and her friends come over to speak with her, curious about the actress. Later, one of Gracie's friends talks with Elizabeth about the couple, describing them as a well-liked part of the community. When Elizabeth asks what she admires most about Gracie, the friend says that Gracie always knows what she wants and isn't afraid to go after it. As Elizabeth listens, she watches Joe and Gracie cuddling in the garden, appearing calm and affectionate. Before leaving, the friend asks Elizabeth to be kind when telling their story. That night, Elizabeth goes through old interviews and news articles about the case, trying to understand every detail. At the same time, Joe sits alone, watching Elizabeth performances over and over. The next day, he is exchanging private messages with someone online who shares his hobby of raising monarch butterflies. Meanwhile, Elizabeth continues studying Gracie, and the two meet at a flower arrangement class. During their conversation, Gracie asks Elizabeth why she wants to play her. Elizabeth explains that when she first read the script, she became curious because she felt there was more to Gracie than what had been shown in the tabloids. But Gracie says she doesn't think about the past at all. Later that evening, Elizabeth joins the family for dinner at their home, where she begins asking more direct questions about their relationship. Gracie talks about her childhood, how she moved around often and was very close with her brothers. Elizabeth then asks whether they ever considered leaving town after the scandal, but both Gracie and Joe say they stayed because their entire family is there, including Gracie's other children and Joe's father. As the conversation continues, Elizabeth asks how Gracie and Joe first met. Gracie explains that Joe was in her son Georgie's year in school, but she didn't really know him until he started working at the pet store, the summer after his 7th grade year. Elizabeth then asks what happened to Joe's friendship with Georgie. Joe says they don't really speak anymore. Elizabeth asks Gracie about her relationship with her other children, but Gracie pushes back, saying it's not relevant to the story being told in the film, which focuses only on the period after she met Joe. Elizabeth disagrees, suggesting that it does matter. Before the evening ends, they mention that their extended family is still closely connected, and that even Gracie's grandchildren will be graduating alongside the twins. Gracie then invites Elizabeth to attend the graduation if she's still in town. As Elizabeth and Joe talk outside, she asks if it would be okay to speak with him alone at some point, and he agrees. Later that night, Elizabeth speaks with her fiancé on the phone. She tells him that Gracie doesn't seem to carry any shame or guilt about what happened. In fact, there's something about it that seems to fascinate her. Part of Elizabeth is drawn to the way Gracie lives, without any doubt or regret. The next day, Elizabeth meets with Gracie's first husband, Tom. He tells her they met at a party, and that Gracie was so beautiful. They got married young, and for a while, he believed they had a good life together. So when he found out about the affair, it completely blindsided him. But what unsettled him most was who it involved. He says he couldn't understand what would make a grown woman get involved with someone so young. He explains that he found out the same way everyone else did when they were caught at the pet store and Gracie was arrested. Later, Elizabeth joins Gracie and her daughter while they shop for a graduation dress. During the outing, Elizabeth tells Gracie she can understand how her first marriage might have felt isolating. She then asks why she married Tom in the first place. Gracie answers that she was young, and he seemed perfect on paper. Soon after, Elizabeth visits the pet store where everything began. She sees the stockroom where Gracie and Joe were caught and reenacts the scene by herself. That night, Elizabeth watches audition tapes of young boys being considered for the role of Joe. As she studies their faces, she's struck by how young they actually look. The next day, Elizabeth goes to Joe's workplace to talk to him. Before leaving, she tells him that now she understands what it feels like to be sneaking around with him. Later, she meets Gracie's defense lawyer at a restaurant. He explains that when Gracie first spoke to him, she said she was caught having an affair and that they were in love. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. During the meeting, one of the musicians approaches their table. It turns out to be Georgie, Gracie's son, who was in the same class as Joe. He is clearly angry and talks about how he found out before his birthday and how no one even canceled the party. He says it ruined his life. Elizabeth tells the lawyer that Gracie seems well-liked in the neighborhood and that her baking business looks successful. But the lawyer tells her to check the names on the orders, and she'll see it's mostly the same few people rotating. He explains that people are just ordering to keep her busy out of kindness. Elizabeth later participates in a Q&A at the twins' high school, where she talks about the intimacy actors experience while filming those kinds of scenes. When she says she enjoys playing morally ambiguous characters, Mary is visibly offended. Afterward, Elizabeth drives her home and stays to talk with Gracie. She asks to observe her while she puts on her makeup, closely watching every gesture. Gracie becomes slightly self-conscious and offers to do Elizabeth's makeup instead. During this, she asks about Elizabeth's parents, and Elizabeth tells her they are academics. Elizabeth later speaks with Joe again. He tells her about his hobby of raising butterflies. He then asks what she thinks about their relationship and whether he can trust her to represent them accurately. He says people often see him as a victim, but he and Gracie have been together for over 20 years. He insists he was different from other kids and that he wanted a relationship. When Elizabeth asks about his parents, Joe says they never talked about it. His father was focused on work, and his mother passed away years ago. He adds that it's hard to imagine what that conversation would have been like. When Joe returns home, Gracie is upset because one of her clients is leaving town and has canceled the cake order after she already put in a lot of work. Joe tries to calm her down. Gracie then complains about Elizabeth, saying she's getting on her nerves by talking to everyone. Later, at her accommodation, Elizabeth speaks with the film's director. After watching audition tapes, she suggests casting a more appealing actor for the role of the young Joe. She also says she feels like she's getting closer to something real, something closer to the truth. The next morning, Joe is still talking to his friend from the Butterfly Facebook group. He suggests they take a trip together to see butterflies, but she reminds him that he is married. After that, Joe shares a joint with his son Charlie. Joe admits he has never tried it before. After smoking, he breaks down and starts crying in Charlie's arms. He seems very depressed and says he worries about him all the time. Meanwhile, Elizabeth comes over again, now dressed a lot like Gracie. Gracie teaches her how to make a cake. She then shows her a card that Joe gave her when they first met, from a school assignment about peace. In the card he wrote, "Peace is sitting by a lake in the summertime. Peace is a Coca-Cola on a hot summer day. Peace is being with you." Later, the family, along with Elizabeth, go out to celebrate the twins' graduation at a restaurant. They run into her ex-husband, Georgie, and the rest of Gracie's old family, which makes the situation awkward. Gracie leaves to go to the bathroom, upset that the night isn't going well. She says she just wants her kids to love her and calls herself naive. She then tells Elizabeth that Joe will drive her and the kids home first, and then come back to pick her up. While Elizabeth waits, Georgie approaches her. He offers to share details about Gracie's life if she gets him a job as a music supervisor on the film. He claims he read Gracie's diary and says her brothers had assaulted her growing up. He also threatens to speak negatively about the film if she refuses. Elizabeth tells him she will think about it. After that, Joe drives Elizabeth home. She invites him to her room, where he gives her a letter Gracie wrote to him when they met. Elizabeth tells Joe that he still has time to start a new life. After that, they sleep together. As he's leaving, Elizabeth refers to his past as a story, but Joe is hurt and says that it's his life. After he leaves, Elizabeth reads the letter out loud, copying Gracie's voice and mannerisms as she does. When Joe gets home, he confronts Gracie. He is emotional and asks her if he was too young when their relationship started. Gracie insists that he was the one who pursued her and keeps asking who is really in control. Joe tries to talk about his feelings and what happened, but Gracie shuts the conversation down. The next morning, one of Joe's butterflies emerges from its chrysalis. Later, the family attends the graduation. As the twins walk across the stage, Joe weeps alone in the crowd. As Elizabeth prepares to leave, Gracie tells her that Georgie made up the story about her brothers. She also says that she still talks to him regularly. Elizabeth doesn't seem fully convinced. On set of the film, Elizabeth films multiple takes of a scene depicting Gracie seducing Joe at the pet store. While the director is satisfied, she asks to film another take, insisting that the scene is getting more real. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.